Hello, and welcome to Reclaim Your Vitality and Live Joyfully. We've got just about an hour together, and so we're going to get right down to it. My name is Margaret Graziano, and I am the founder of Keen Alignment, and I've been working in the human potential field since 1996. I spend my time leading retreats for leadership teams and entire teams who want to learn to optimize their collective genius and work in a state of flow. I also am an executive coach, and I have a strong background in organizational effectiveness. So today our focus is about reclaiming your vitality. So the first thing we're going to look at is what's needed to even be in a state of vitality on an ongoing basis. First and foremost, all reports from anybody who studies well-being and effectiveness is we need an aim. We need to have something we're living into. Then we need to have alignment around how we spend our time, who we spend our time with, what we spend our time doing, and then we need to have a plan, a path, so that we know when we're on track and when we're off track. And when we're off track, of course, getting back on track. People want to feel that they have a positive influence on themselves, their family, and even the world. They also want to know, it's one of the basic human needs, that they're being a contribution. And most people say they'd like to live in a state of joy. When Maslow created and coined the phrase self-actualization, he said that only 1% of the human race would ever experience self-actualization. And that really is the sense when you feel you are on purpose, when you are living and acting on purpose. So the model of aim, align, and path comes from any project, any initiative, any organization, and even any family will be much healthier and much higher performers if they're living into an ultimate intent. They also have to be focused on cultivating the environment to have an effective environment, because when things don't go as planned or when there's friction in the system, it becomes stressful for everyone involved. So in your own life, how do you create an environment that has you operating at your optimal performance so that you can experience yourself as a contribution and other people can too? And then there's the architecture. What's the structure you need? I said earlier the path, but what's the structure you need? What are your building blocks? How are you going to get there? What are your habits, your rituals? We're going to talk about all that today in this workshop or this webinar. Actually, it's a webinar. The workshop is coming up next week, and that is 8 weeks. So the first step is revitalizing. If you want to reclaim your vitality, it's important to understand the framework that you need, but then you also need to, before you even begin to create framework, if you don't have any, it's understanding what your mind, your body, and your spirit needs. How do you keep yourself in this state of homeostasis? What do you need to revitalize? Is it that you need to be exercising more? I know for myself, since I walked the Camino last October, I've been doing a lot of walking, but I haven't been working with weights and I haven't been working with intensity. So one of the things that I did for myself is I joined Orange Theory so that I could be working in a state of intensity for an hour 3 times a week. So that's what I needed to do to recharge my batteries. When we're experiencing friction, it could be at home, it could be at work, it could be with a family member. When it gets crunchy and uncomfortable, the stress goes up, the dis-ease goes up. And when it's a state of long-term friction, it's actually untenable because we get into a state in our body of inflammation. And when our body is inflamed, it's the first step to illness. So the body is normally set so that when you're, back in the day, and a saber-toothed tiger was attacking you, you needed to fight, flight, or freeze. Or if you were really not doing much, you would just like kind of lay down and let the tiger eat you alive. But the body put inflammation as a check system to protect the vital organs. When we live in long states of stress, when things aren't working effectively, you think about why sometimes bosses are so crabby and things don't work right. It's even the same thing at home when you walk in the door and you think everything is supposed to be in order, but the clothes are spewing all over the place and there's pizza boxes everywhere because one of your teenage kids is having a field day. It causes friction, and friction puts us into a very low state of effectiveness. During COVID-19, actually March of 2020, we began a long 2-year journey of being in a constant low grade state of friction. We were in fear. We were afraid about getting sick. We were afraid about our family members getting sick. We couldn't do the things that we were used to doing. So a lot of people got easy, like, oh, this is just the way life is, but it's not healthy to live in that state. And what we're talking about today is how to get out of friction, how to remove friction in every area of life you can by first taking care of the leader within, which is you. So Flow Research Collective, which I am one of their people who've been trained, and I use it in my coaching, gives 20 active recovery tips. How do I get myself recalibrated fast? Go get a massage, meditate, take yoga, get enough sleep, laugh. I'm taking an improv class this summer because I want to access humor in the face of anything. Some people buy a weighted blanket, but you can see if any of these things on the screen make a difference for you. And I recommend that you take a screenshot. You will reactivate your body and get yourself from parasympathetic nervous system on high alert. Oh my God, shit's hitting the fan. What am I going to do? I can't handle this. To get yourself in the frame of mind where you're in homeostasis, where your parasympathetic nervous system turns on and calms you down. And the sympathetic nervous system that's there to manage all your stress takes a back seat. Because when you are in friction, your parasympathetic nervous system, your amygdala, that little almond-shaped organ that is sandwiched above your ear and behind your executive brain, is telling the rest of your body that you're in trouble. So taking an ice bath, going to take a cold shower, taking a steam, doing breath work will immediately transport you into this state of all is well. Very, very important to practice that. So we're going to be spending 8 weeks with people in our Evolve the Leader seminar that starts next week. It's 2 hours once a week. And so you get 16 hours of training. It'll all be recorded, and we'll give you many, 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 many ways to recalibrate yourself and get yourself back into that state of well-being. So crystallizing is the second step. What's your aim? Once you've calmed yourself down, once you're in that frame of mind of, I'm okay, it's gonna work out. Now you want to be creating your future. What's your life for? What's your purpose? What's your calling? And then when you know that and you're connected to it, and life's about more than just trying to get out of work or trying to just have a glass of wine at night so you can just decompress. When life is pulling you forward, it just works better because you step into those positive habits that are needed to live your aim. So when I work with people, and I think anybody on this webinar got the Future Self video, and if you didn't, you can send us an email. That's a recording of a piece of the work that we do with people in the Evolve the Leader program and also in our coaching program, Momentum Coaching, where we really support people in cultivating this crystallized vision for their life so that they have a destination. There's something they're living into. And it's not a someday it'll happen. It's a who am I now and what's my life for now. And there's other things you can do, like create a vision board of your life. I was just working with someone today who's lost a very important family member, and she's also lost her grounding and really checking out what's important in her life altogether. And what we did is we said, what would it take for you to live in a state of courage? And then what would engagement look like? And she did all that in a vision board, and then she journaled about it. And by the time I left, she had seen things that she had been not looking at or not present to that was important to her. Because when we rush through life, when we're at work, trying to take care of the kids, trying to take care of the house, getting this done, getting that done, and we're not focused on our health and well-being or what's important to us, we start dropping balls everywhere. So the next part is recognize what's important to me. Now that I know that I've crystallized my vision, let's do an inventory. What are my strengths? What am I great at that no one else is, or that no one else is as good as me, or I'm at the top of my game in that field? What are my superpowers? So for me, one of my superpowers is being able to work with people and get right to the source of what's not working and support them in putting the building blocks in place for what is working. I would say I'm a systems thinker and a problem solver. Weaknesses, look at your life, take an inventory, scan through your house, look at your physical body. Where's the weakness? Do I lack the discipline to go work out? Do I lack time management? Am I not organized? Do I not follow a schedule? What's the weakness? I would say my weakness is I am a person who is at the point in my life that I only want to do what I want to do. And I want other people to manage everything else. And I trust too much and don't follow up enough. That's one of my weaknesses, and it burns me a lot of the time. Another weakness I have is I try to cram too much into a day, and then I might not give myself enough breaks. So what I've done in the architecture section, but I'll tell you now, what I've done is I started blocking 2 hours in the middle of every day that I don't take phone calls, I don't talk to clients, I don't talk to staff, I don't talk to other consultants, I'm not on a webinar, I'm not on a podcast. It's just for me, whether I want to go for a walk or I want to go get my car washed or I want to just read a book or just sit outside and look at the ocean, or like they say in Flow Research Collective, stare at paint. Just recalibrate. But we have to schedule time to overcome our weaknesses. What are our limiting beliefs? Where do I hold myself as less than or not enough? So everybody, I don't care how successful you are, has limiting beliefs. I just went to a speakers conference 2 weeks ago already. And I think I'm pretty good at what I do. And then I go to this speakers conference and I'm in a room with 100 pros. They're not only pros, like earning mega thousands of dollars an hour, presenting from the front of the stage. They're surrounded by pros. Everyone on their team was a pro. And I started thinking, oh my gosh, how can I be that? I'm not that. And I caught myself. But the fact is that messaging in my brain, that loop is still there. I'm not enough. And so it'll be there. I'm 60. It's going to be there the rest of my life. I need to catch it and recognize when that limiting belief is impacting me and stopping me from taking action. And so do you. What's your point of view? What's your perspective? How do you look at life? Do you get caught up in all the politics and everything that's not going well in the world? And then do you tune out and disconnect yourself? That's like a perspective. Some people have a point of view that life is hard, or money is scarce, or happiness is scarce. Some people have a point of view that if I'm too happy, then I'll be disappointed when something bad happens. Well, here's the facts. Bad shit's going to happen. Things are going to go wrong. So we need to build structures and build health and well-being around ourselves and a vision for our life, an aim, and align our values and the people we hang out with and the work we do, and align ourselves so that we can walk the right road. And when we're on the wrong road, we can say, uh-oh, I'm off track, and come back. Point of view is like context. Context is like water is to a fish. Fish doesn't know they're in water. They're just in water. So a perspective, especially at work, some people have a point of view of like work is hard. So then everything seems hard. So just take a look and inventory, what's my point of view? Next is what triggers you? What are your triggers? Everyone, I don't care how self-actualized you are, how much work you've done on yourself, we all have triggers. I was in a meeting yesterday with 10 people running businesses, all different businesses. They were in a group called Vistage, and I was speaking to them and working with them on this exact thing, evolving the leader within. And all the triggers, you should have seen them. There's a trigger of people are stupid, one of them had. And whenever somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do, they go straight to frustration. We don't have enough resources. So I was working on an exercise with them, and one person was short some puzzle pieces, but I had the bucket of puzzle pieces right in front of her. Instead of going in the bucket and adding more puzzle pieces, she just complained to everybody that she was set up to lose. And here's the thing. When I said to her, where else in your life do you think you don't have the resources and you don't go look for them? She started to tear up. It happens everywhere. She reacts. So your triggers are like you got push buttons and somebody's pushing them, and you're triggered and you automatically go into reaction mode. Some of my triggers is when we don't deliver what we promise, when we're coming up short. And I think every business owner feels that. They feel that in their heart because their heart and soul is wrapped up in what they're doing. So doing inventory, even now while I'm talking, what are my triggers? What's my already always perspective that I come to life with? Do you wake up in life with, oh my God, there's so much to do? Or do you wake up every morning saying, thank God I'm alive, or thank the universe I'm alive, or I'm so happy to be here? Whether you have positive triggers or negative triggers, it's just important to know what they are. And it's also important to know what lights you up. What's the impact you want to have? It's important for you to know what's the impact. How do I want to serve people? Because if you know that, it'll help you recalibrate faster. Because when we're in a state of frustration, fear, and hopelessness, we can't have a positive impact because we're in self-protection mode. There's a saber-toothed tiger looking to get us. Whoopsie. Next is some other self-doubt statements. So some self-doubt statements are, I'm not enough. I don't have enough experience. I have no value to add. Who am I? Everyone will find out that I'm not ready for this promotion I just got. I'm not good enough. My accent's too thick. I'm too old. I'm too young. I can't make a mistake. My partner and I, my counterpart and I did a retreat about 3 weeks ago with 7 extremely high producing sales leaders. The retreat was scheduled because they have a bad reputation at the company. And they're go-getters, they're movers and shakers. And so the executive team really wanted to find out, what's going on, guys? Why are you so unhappy? Why are you leaving this wake of negative impact? Turns up that there's a lot of self-doubt. Behind all that top producing bravado, there's a lot of self-doubt. And a lot of that self-doubt came from childhood, and they're still bringing it with them now. So one of the things that I want to make sure that you hear from me is we're all human and we all have baggage. The problem with the baggage is it's not in the garbage can going down to the street. It's in front of us and it gets in our way. We trip over it. Some of us drag it around like Pigpen in Snoopy, and some of us spend all day navigating our baggage and pretending we don't. But it's normal to have baggage, and it's normal to need to work on it. And it takes time and effort and energy. When we coach people, so one of the people that wrote the foreword for my book, Marshall Goldsmith, also wrote a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. I highly recommend, if you're on this call, you read Marshall's book. Now, it's written for executives, but much like my book, Ignite Culture, is written and it's talking to the executive. It's talking to the executive inside of every one of us. We're all leaders in our life. And when things aren't going well, when things don't work out, we react a certain way. Maybe we're procrastinators and then we get all anxious and then we make mistakes. Or maybe we have really low patience and we start yelling and screaming. Who knows? We all do our own form, and it gets in the way and we have to work on it. The next piece we want to talk about is systematize. Systematize is looking at every area of your life, all of the domains that are important to you, and asking yourself, am I giving attention to all of these domains that are important to me? Am I giving enough attention? Am I honoring my values in those domains? Am I on aim? Am I on purpose in those domains? And to do an inventory about that. So what I'd like you to do is take a look at this picture and slow down your breath as you're looking at this picture. And start to imagine that you're there. You're either on the shore looking out, or sitting on a rock, or floating on a floaty. And if you don't like water, then picture your own place that you like being. And now close your eyes. And imagine you're in that place that gives you well-being, and you feel like you're in paradise, or if not paradise, that everything is well with the world when you're there. Now imagine with your eyes closed that you're there, and see what you see, and smell the smells. And now take a big deep breath in. Take a big deep breath in and experience that sense of being in that place in your whole body. Now let it expand by 10%. Now even bigger. Now give it a color and an image of inside your body, that place that you love to be at. And then take one big deep breath and exhale and let it out and open up your eyes. When you're looking at the places in your life that are important to you, it's important to feel in a way that makes you comfortable, soothed, so that when you look at these domains and you start to work your plan, which is the conceptualize module, is that you build a plan that gives you that sense of well-being. So let's go back one. Let's say one of the areas of your life that's important to you are family. How do you want to feel with your family? What are the emotions you want to experience? What are the outcomes? How will you be living on purpose with your family? Let's say another domain that's important to you is your body, the health of the vessel. How do you want to feel about your body? What do you want to experience with your body? So that's what we're doing when we go into this next phase, and we're conceptualizing and we're building our architecture for what's going to have us live the life we want and live in a state of joy. So in my calendar, I told you that I have that 2-hour block for recovery. I also have a daily block for meditation. I have a daily block for connecting with the people that I work with. I have a daily block for contacting my granddaughter. I have a lot of grandkids, but she's the age that I want to connect with her, and she actually has her own phone so she can connect. But the whole thing about conceptualizing is putting the building blocks in place so that the things that you say are important to you, that you're actually spending time on. So here's some examples of the environments that might be important to you, the things you want to make sure you have architecture for or structure for. Remember that piece I showed you earlier, the path. And this is where you would do an inventory. Is nature and outdoors important to me? Statistics say the more time you spend outside and the more you connect to the outdoors, the more mentally healthy you'll be, the more connected you'll be to the people around you. What about the place you live and drive and your desk at work? Is it a mess? Is it scattered everywhere? Or do you have organization? When your physical environment is clean, your mind is clean. Financial, do you have your ducks in a row? Do you have the insurance you need? Do you have the savings you need? And if not, do you have a plan? Your network, we all need a network. Being part of a community is one of the most important things we will do in our professional. And even my daughter-in-law, she is on a leave from work for a couple years now. She has a son, which she tells me the only thing missing is community. A lot of the moms in her neighborhood work. And so she's working on building her network. Relationships. What I mean by this is your close relationships, your intimate, or the people you work with, or your friends. And then spirituality. I'm not talking about God or religion here, but is spirituality important to you? If not, take it off the list, put an X on it. But if it is important, what are you doing to connect to your highest self, to your spiritual self? Because it's not going to happen by accident. You've got to plan it, and then you've got to work the plan. Your authentic self. This is you taking care of you, you being you, you honoring your boundaries. How much time do you spend there? Do you take time to journal every night or every day or once a week or 3 times a week, or go for a walk alone with no headphones, no book on tape, no calling your friends, just being with you? You know, that soul that lives inside of your skin. And what about self-image and health? Now, if I was redoing this, which I would like to redo it, I always say that every webinar, I want to change this. I would separate health and well-being from image, because I think our society has collapsed it. And I don't think that's healthy, because you could look any way you feel comfortable looking. The question is, are you healthy? So these are the 9 environments of you, and maybe I'll make it into 10 environments. And then clarity, are you clear about where you're going? Are you clear what you want? And would you say that you're grounded in that clarity with what being on the right path looks like and what being off track looks like? You know, for me, one of the most profound things that happened to me is I did this program called the Landmark Forum in 1996. It was my doorway into the human potential world, and I loved it. And in the advanced class, they took you 20 years into the future, much like we do with the people we coach or the people that are in our Evolve the Leader Within program. And when they took me 20 years in the future, I found myself living in Northern California. But at the time, I owned a recruiting company in Illinois, but my vision was Northern California. And my vision was that I was working with people on mind, body, and spiritual alignment. I was definitely not doing that living in Chicago, getting people jobs. And it was an honorable career, but it wasn't mind, body, and spiritual alignment. And I had this vision that I would be supporting CEOs in falling in love with themselves and their companies again, because to be honest, the stress CEOs are under, nobody knows. Nobody knows what it's like. However much money they're making, I'm sure they earned it, because there's many, many sleepless nights, and there's many challenges and frustrations. But for all of us, we want to make sure that how we're living our life isn't all in the stress zone. So anyway, back to this, I wanted to help CEOs fall in love with themselves and their companies again, because I knew that if they were in a state of joy, they would have the kind of cultures where people were thriving, not just doing their job, but really growing and really learning and really embracing challenges. So, but I wasn't doing that. So as I was leading a workshop one day for Landmark, it was the Velocity seminar. And part of that seminar is, where have you given up on your dreams and your passions and you're just on autopilot, just kind of getting by? And one of the things I had realized, it had been 10 years since I set that goal. It was 10 years later. And in that seminar, I declared I will be doing culture work within 3 years. And I moved to California a year later, sold my house, sold my car, sold my business, moved to California, and came out here with a 4x6 U-Haul, and that's it. No family, no friends, no nothing, just a vision. And I had the intellectual property for the recruiting company that I had, and that was called Conscious Hiring. And I moved here, and all I could think about is, I got to get someone to develop the software. I got to get someone to develop the software. I made a handshake deal for that software. We built it, and about 6 months before we were going live, I started to see things unraveling. He was not paying people, my partner at the time. He was not honoring his agreements. He wanted to compete with LinkedIn and not do what it was that we were here to do. And in the end, I pulled the plug on that software because I saw how out of integrity my aim was. My aim is to liberate the human spirit, not to build a software to compete with LinkedIn. And after that breakdown of breaking that company apart, I was at the lowest point in my life, not just my professional life, my whole life. I was in this state of fear and frustration that I had spent $1 million of my retirement to build this software. And the new partner fired my old partner, had my son working for him. He was trying to brainwash him. It was bad news. And I remember saying to myself, I am so off my path. And what I did is a major revitalization. It was a major interruption. And I went back and did a 4-day deep dive retreat with people that I trusted, where I examined every area of my life that wasn't working. And I started to take responsibility for the choices I made that were not aligned with that aim, for the things I was doing and the way I was spending my time that was not aligned with my values. And then I had to get back on the path. I hired a coach. I continued to take workshops. I went to leadership training with the same place that I had my coaching certification. I completely buttoned up my ship and got back on track. And 2 years later, my new company, the company that I was running, no partners, made it into the Inc. 5000 because I was living in alignment. I was living in integrity. I was honoring my values, and I was on purpose. I share that story with you, not to get sympathy or not to give you the drama, but I had a big commitment in life and I forgot about it when I got into building the software and was seeing the vision of selling this software to millions of people to hire better. Even people in this business of transformation make mistakes. We're all human and we can all recalibrate and get back on track. And the night environments really helped me. The next piece is realize. And by the way, each of these that I'm going through with you are all modules in our Evolve the Leader Within program. We spend 2 hours, not 5 minutes, on each of these, really breaking apart what needs to happen for you in each of these areas and how to make it work and get yourself into this high state of operating, which is courage, engagement, and innovation. When a human being is operating in fear, like I was right before I filed a lawsuit, a human being can only be 10% effective. That means 90% ineffective. When they're in hopelessness, despair, like my client that I was working with, she lost her sister. Her sister was younger than her. She kept saying, I should have saved her. I should have fixed this. That's deep, deep, deep despair. She's going to have to process that. But when you're in a state of despair, you can't make good decisions. You're only 5% effective. On the contrary, when you're in a state of courage, when you're in a state of courage and you believe in the future that you create, you set inspiring possibilities. That's what the Realize module is. In a state of courage, just believing in yourself, setting these intentions, setting goals, you move into 65% effectiveness. And here's the other thing that happens. Your energy goes from adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine, anxiety, protecting yourself, to expansive, where you've got dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and endorphins running through your body. All of those cause happiness. They have you see more. They have you be able to experience more and tap into the joy that is naturally yours to have. It's innate with all of us. So the Realize module is about looking at where your aim is and going for it and setting a target. If you think you like what we're talking about and you want to participate, please scan this with your phone or take a picture. And this is how you find out more about the seminar series that starts next week, and it's 8 weeks long. It's called Evolve the Leader Within. And the price point is one of the best price points we've ever had, because the truth is, my organization normally doesn't do public programs. Our coursework and our material and our education is typically only available inside the corporate world. So it costs 30 times what we're charging the public world to participate in this workshop. So let's look at goal setting. So what is it that you want to experience in your aim? What do you want to experience in every area of your life? And describing it. And when you're in this module, we teach you how to write it so that you're using words that are telling your brain, this is possible. And then what growth do you need? What development, what evolution do you need to step into that experience? And how will your experience and you evolving contribute to your family, to your business, to your community, or to you? So you really want to look at, what do I want in my life? And what is it going to take from me to go get that? And how will it feel? And who will I positively impact? So the next module is about optimizing. This is about going for it. This is being in the game, being fully engaged, being all in on the 7 levels of individual, group, and organizational effectiveness. Courage is level 4. Courage is when you believe in a future that's positive, often despite any evidence. Well, engagement is level 5. And in engagement, people are operating at 79% effective. That means 79% of the time, anything you touch is going to work out because you're fully engaged. You're all in. You're not just playing a part, you're living the part. You're in action. And what happens to your dopamine? It expands. Your serotonin, which is like a mind hack for happiness, expands. Oxytocin, you just feel good and you want to be great with everybody. So being in action is optimizing. Whether it's physical action or interaction, it's making your dreams come true by taking actions that are aligned with your aim. Next is working in a state of flow. Part of optimizing is removing the boulders from the river, or learning to navigate because you're proactive and you know there's going to be boulders, but not putting obstacles in your own way. It's doing things to be in a flow state. Here's what Flow Research Collective says. So most people spend their time, my phone's in another room, which is where it belongs. But let's just pretend this is my phone. They wake up in the morning, they grab their phone, they scroll, and right away their amygdala is going, whoop, 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 trouble. And then you look at the clock and you're like, oh my God, I'm late. And then the kid says, oh, I didn't do my homework. And before you even leave the house, you're in a state of a low-grade amygdala hijack, which means you're below the power and freedom line. You're in frustration, which in frustration, you can only be 25% effective. Nobody wants to be 25% effective. That means you're working 75% harder than you need to. But when you're in a state of flow, you anticipate what needs to happen. You know life is going to hand you lemons, so you proactively think about how you're going to make lemonade. You have a plan, you work the plan, and you work into the plan active recovery. What most people do when those obstacles happen, and I've been on calls with thousands of people, most people quit or reprieve when there's too many obstacles. But the thing to do is lean in engagement to those obstacles, learn from those obstacles, remove them, and plan for them not to happen again. And, Murphy's Law, they may still happen, but maybe you've attuned yourself with your values and your aim, and you've got lots of good habits that you've developed inside your path so that you know how to handle stress. And instead of, yikes, you're wax on and wax offing, because that's really what Miyagi was teaching Daniel's son, is how to stay calm in the face of fight. And once you learn and master many of these distinctions, many movies that you watch about athletics or about overcoming opposition, they all share all of the distinctions that we've talked about. So things that will take you out of flow, things that will put you into a state of below the power and freedom line. Some of those things are too much social media. What Flow Research Collective coached my cohort on, and I'm sure everybody, because they have a lot of standardized programs, is turn off your windows, turn off your notifications, put yourself on do not disturb. When you have 6, 7, 8, 9 windows open on your phone at once or on your laptop at once, it causes cognitive scattering. And when your brain is scattered, your thoughts are scattered. And when your thoughts are scattered and your brain is scattered, it causes tensity in your body, friction. You see all those young kids, everyone's on their phone, they're not connecting. Other things that bust flow is argumentative relationships. When people don't do what they say they're going to do, they don't keep their word. When you see the woman from I forgot the movie, but the handmaiden. What causes friction is feeling like you're controlled, when you're not getting along, when you're stuck or feel lost and out of control, when you've got too much going on. We work with organizations all the time on change management, and we hear from some people that they're currently involved in 6 or 7 change initiatives at once, and they're on all the teams. Impossible to be effective when you've got too much going on. One of the things we work deeply on in Evolve the Leader Within is your sweet spot, your Goldilocks of when are you really effective? What's your sweet spot of capacity? And when do you start to lose it? When do you start to become completely ineffective? And when are you bored? You don't have enough, so you're bored, looking around, causing trouble, things like that. So it's called the Goldilocks curve of optimization. And we do that in the Evolve the Leader Within program. So I have this fancy snow globe here. Whoops. I am going to stop for a second. And Brennan, if you could zoom in, that would be great. Imagine that when you're in a state of friction, this is your brain. All of this going on inside of your brain are all your thoughts. The average human being has between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. 85% of them are negative and repetitive. When we get into a state of flow, the snow globe settles. We can actually see the rocks. We can see what's going on. But when we're in a state of friction, this is what's going on in our brain, also in our body, in our vital organs, and it's not healthy. So I want to ask you a few questions before we wrap up, and you can take journal if that's important to you. But what are the three biggest sources of distraction in your life right now? What are the things that take you out of the game? What's distracting you? Is it that you're not scheduling your time aligned with your values? Or are you too focused on what everybody else is doing? FOMO. Are you involved in too many projects at once? Are your limiting beliefs part of your distractions? And then if you're taking notes, if you're journaling, what are 3 steps you can take now to remove each of those distractions? What can you do? And I'll give you a minute to write. Good. And if you're watching this recording, you can always pause it afterward. So the next question is, what activities can you remove so that you can experience moments of boredom intentionally during the day? Now you might say, why would I ever want to be bored? That's my worst nightmare, being bored. Because when you're bored, you get into creativity. Most people never allow themselves to get into that state of innovation. Now, we talked about courage, 65% effectiveness. We talked about engagement, 79% effectiveness. When you are in a state of innovation, you are 89% effective, and you're tapping into parts of your prefrontal cortex and your task and default mode that you don't have access to when you're in frustration, fear, and hopelessness. Joy lives between the innovation state and the engagement state, going out there, taking action, and then being in that creative zone. And of course, the expansive power of all of that serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine that happens when you're in that state of creativity. But you can't get there if you don't give yourself blocks of time where you're not doing anything. So here's some things not to do. This is examples of where you're not giving yourself opportunity to get bored. Eating while you're watching content, reading the news between tasks, video gaming, so scanning social media, listening to podcasts, even when you're in conversations with other people or trying to eat. You want to get away from multitasking. I'm on this webinar. There's nothing else in the world I would want to be doing and nothing else I could be doing. Because if I was doing that and looking for this and looking for that, I couldn't be here. But we don't remind ourselves of that. We think we're going to be more efficient by doing 6, 7, 8, 9 things at the same time. And all that does is teach us to be distracted. So synchronization. This is one of the most important things that we'll talk about. This is one of the most important modules in living a life of joy, evolving the leader within, and being in a state of joy, which is 550 on the vibrational scale, again, between engagement and innovation. And that's being in the zone. We talk about flow. What flow really means is being in the zone. If you're a fan of professional basketball and you know the Golden State Warriors, those folks play in the zone. If you've seen the guys in the rowing movie that was recently out, in the zone. Michael Jordan and the Bulls, in the zone. Lots of examples. The guy surfing, You can't surf like that if you're not 100% present with what you're doing and in the zone. Often physical activity is the easiest way to get in the zone. We want to learn this through physical activity, and then we want to apply it to the rest of our life. And so synchronicity is the highest level of effectiveness. And when you're living in synchronicity, you're 100% effective. You touch something once and it works. You learn from your mistakes. You see what's going on around you and you say, wow, everything that's happening is happening for me. It's to teach me. It's to help me get better. Versus when you're in frustration, why is all this stuff happening to me? I don't want this. Or you're in anxiety and fear. You're resisting all those things happening, pushing it away. But synchronicity is found first and foremost through physical activity. Could be meditating. That's a mind and a body and a spirit connection. This guy's reading. Reading is a physical activity. It's engaging the brain, the hands, and the mind. You're processing, cycling, running, surfing, yoga. It's where it starts, but it doesn't stay there. It transitions to other areas of your body, and you need to build the muscle of the habits to get synchronicity to be a normal part of your life. It's all about reprogramming the program. Our subconscious programming, not our prefrontal cortex, our subconscious programming is programmed by the child that we once were. From the last trimester to 7 years of age, our little brain is like a computer system that is picking up code from TV, maybe SpongeBob SquarePants, from our mom, from the grocery store, our teacher, how our older brother or sister are responding to us, what's going on with the parents, if there's money issues, if we relocate, if we start a new school and we don't fit in, all of that stuff. The brain is like a sponge at that time, and you know it because that's how kids learn to talk. They just repeat what their parents say. But what people don't understand is the subconscious programming is being developed. And the subconscious programming is where all the limiting beliefs, the weaknesses, the behaviors that are kind of self-saboteuring to you, those actions that you don't take that you know you should take, all that comes from the subconscious program. If you're overly passive, it comes from your subconscious program. I don't need to do it. I'm going to be taken care of. If you're overly aggressive, oh, I have to do it because no one else will do it. If I don't do it, it won't get done. All of that comes from before 7 years old. Once the pathway is laid, every other thing that happens in your life just lays on top of that neuro pathway, and that becomes like an internet superhighway of beliefs, of thoughts, of ways of being, of ways of not being, of things you say, things you don't say. If you're super loud and talkative, or if you're really shy and not talkative, all of it comes from that programming. And so what we do with people in our Evolve the Leader Within program is we work with you to rewrite the program through lots of different activities. We use something called Psych K, where we actually get into your subconscious with you and look at all the limiting beliefs, and then you create new beliefs, and you tap into your subconscious programming through an exercise, and it changes your belief system, and it works. So we're wrapping up, and to just remind you, it begins with your aim. Where are you going? What's important to you? Who do you want to be in life? How do you want to live? What are your values? What are you committing to? And what is it going to take to stay on the path so that you're living in alignment with your values, with your belief systems that are positive, and your aim? And when you do that, when you're living in alignment, you will have a bigger influence on yourself and others. You'll be a contribution to yourself and others, and you'll be more apt to live in a state of joy more often, more of the time. And the epitome of it is you'll be living a self-actualized life. Doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but you will be ready when things happen that you don't want to wax on, wax off. and handle it. Because if we know one thing about life, is it's always throwing us curveballs. So the aim is your ultimate intent. The alignment is creating an environment where it's conducive of you having good boundaries for yourself and others. People know how you want to be treated. You know how you want to treat yourself. And then the path is the architecture, the way there, the way to live in alignment. It's where all your habits are formed. It's your structures. It's the lessons you learn. If you join us for Evolve the Leader Within and you learn the Psych K, reprogramming the program, that's part of the architecture. Goal setting is part of the architecture. Meeting with your future self and really looking at your values and outlining them, part of the architecture. Setting up a schedule that works for you to live in alignment, part of the architecture. So this is an opportunity for you to register for Evolve the Leader Within. Again, you can scan that. It is a remote class. It's every week for 2 hours. Brennan, what nights is it? Tuesdays. So every Tuesday from 5 Pacific to 7. The replay will go out the very next day. And then I'm also going to be available for laser coaching once a month where people can have me at whatever they need. And then I have a team of coaches that are also going to be on Evolve the Leader Within. So you're going to be working with 6 different coaches and have access to 16 hours of training, all for the price. I think it's under $300. So it's like $37 a class. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn or YouTube, we put out a lot of free content. You're welcome to it. Thank you so much for coming, and best of success to you.